So we're back.
Certainly are.
Yeah. Another week, another day, another dollar.
Certainly is.
Or another pound. It could be dollars for you because you're working globally at the moment. Yeah, just before we get into this one, what country have you been delivering into?
So I delivered into 6 countries last week. There was Costa Rica, China, America, Switzerland, UK, and I always forget one. Thailand.
Thailand.
Can I just ask as well, delivering to all them countries?
Yeah.
'Cause Hull's quite a difficult accent to understand, isn't it? How did
Apparently they were understanding me fine.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I was under the same thoughts.
Try and speak
big
slower.
Hull accent, yeah. But next week I'm in Thailand and Mexico again delivering. So it's in 2 years I've delivered into 19 countries.
Great, isn't it?
Don't do tech.
Don't do tech.
Yeah.
It was funny last week. I was marking somebody's papers, and I just sat there looking at my screen and thought, "Wow!" And Leon was walking past, and I said, "Leon, come here. I want to show you this." And he went, "What?" That paper there has been completed by. I'm marking somebody's paper from China, and I was just flabbergasted. I just looked at my screen because you take things for granted sometimes, don't you? And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wow, what we're doing."
Considering you don't class yourself as tech savvy.
No, 2 years ago I didn't do
But
tech.
Dean, does it need to be tech savvy? Because how many desk tickets do we get out on that desk room?
I suppose that's it. You got your own IT
Not
sport
many
team,
now.
haven't you?
Not many now, Dean. Do I?
No, back
Not
up.
many.
It's a bit of a, he ain't got really a choice there, has he?
I used to be called sausage fingers, then I thought, I'm all right now. I'm all right. I'm getting there.
I think interesting, but that's why tech's so amazing. It is, isn't it? It is an amazing thing. But where I want to go with this podcast,
Yep.
I read an awesome book called Indistractable. It's absolutely, I think it's just an absolute game changer. And it's by Nir Eyal, I think it's pronounced, Nireyak. He's a little dyslexic. There's too many E's and I's in there for me.
Yeah.
But it's just an unbelievable read. And I think it ties in real nicely into the conversations we have around Giant, about where our device is. It was like linking to, I've done lots of talks around this in terms of turn our notifications off. And he talks about, in the book, the framework is all about pings, rings and dings. They're not going away and it's not stopping. But the problem is, and he makes a great point, is instead of complaining your phone's addictive, become indistractable. Right? There's always been technology over the years that we was told that was bad for us. Can you believe it or not? When comics was invented,
Yeah.
people said that there was bad for us.
Right.
Novels, people, all these different things. So you go back and you go look through history. And I've been preparing for doing a talk around loneliness and isolation. And I've called my talk Deciphering the Touchscreen Paradox, because we talk about Andy's Man Club. If we didn't have technology, would there be an Andy's Man Club pod? Come on, let's just talk about that.
No, not in the format that it's in now. And we're over 130 clubs nationwide. And the way we'd get to monitor them and the way the format that we have and the information we have to keep and digest, and if without technology we won't be able to function, not at the scale that we are.
And again, I was talking, I'm going to bring it up again because I think he's my new man crush, is Ed Jensen, in terms of I was out having a conversation with him and we was having this conversation on this similar book around this. And again, how many people have we met on this podcast that we would not have had when you met him? Do you ever think he'd be speaking when what you said so profound to him about his website? Remember what he said?
Do you mean when I saw somebody else on it?
No.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, when I first looked at it, yeah, I mean, he was a employment law solicitor, and looking at it, I thought I know nothing about what he does as a job. I understand it to a certain extent. I get what he does, but what he does day to day is way beyond me. So I thought, what am I going to have in common with Ed when he comes in on the podcast? And I struggled a little bit anxiety-wise. I was thinking what I'm going to do, but I trusted the process. And he came on. It was amazing the way he opened up and talked about mental health and the way he works, how he projects his life and his work, and how he balances the two, and some of the techniques that he used. And it was amazing. To be fair, it really touched home with certain things that I try and do myself. Yeah, it was brilliant.
And I think where that links in nicely, why I wanted to do this podcast following Ed, is talks about being indistractable. So our attention is getting grabbed from everywhere at the moment. The biggest challenge I think any of us has got, and I think it's one of the biggest challenges we've got on the planet, is managing our attention span. And I always talk about technology being a tool. I've heard you talk about this all the time now.
Yeah. Technology is brilliant, but let's not us be the tool. And I've set processes in place so I'm not distracted. I come in the office on a Saturday morning now to get stuff done because I don't want distractions, and I focus and I get a lot done because I'm always up really early in the morning, so I can come to the office, get stuff done, and get home before the wife is ready.
Yeah.
So I ain't interfering with family life, and it's just something so I'm not distracted. I've turned all my notifications off on my phone, and we've had a conversation this week, Leon, haven't we, about setting timers. I've set a timer on my phone for social media.
Yeah.
Just so I can focus on other things.
Yeah.
But I think I want to start around when we start talking about this, because everything takes effort. Anything you want to do in life, you think of anything you've ever achieved in life, it takes effort. Nothing comes for free. And I think when we start talking about ban AI, ban social media, ban this, ban that, just listen to this from a history books. Right? I did some independent research on this, right? So this says, and this newspaper clipping, so anyone reading, you can see a physical newspaper clipping on there, and we'll try and cut to this as well. So it was saying, addicted to comic books. It was a pandemic. Originally, it was novels. So and it is a newspaper clipping. The evil of novel reading from the London Spectator. The mischief of voracious novel reading is really much more like the mischief of dram drinking that appears at first sight. And dram drinking was alcohol, drinking alcohol. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then we run through again. Phones, phone addicted teens, defense of helpless ego. Massive report in 1959. And this is when you think of this, just go back and think of this. So they were saying phones was a massive addiction for teenagers, and it was giving them egos that they couldn't control. That was in 1955. Them phones was connected to cables, right?
Yeah.
In hallways. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember. I couldn't even get past my dad to use mine.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there was call for that. And then it says, they first released the telephone on the aeroplane in America. Another headline, telephone addiction in the air. Now planes aren't safe for telephone addicts. So what I'm trying to get back to is none of this is new. And we've even got here, modern children prefer radio to cops and robbers. And all of a sudden, these are things that have always come up. And I think for me, what I take from the book, in Indistractable, just talks about, one of our superpowers as human is we're scared of everything. Why are we scared of everything, would you say?
A lot of the time is we don't like change, and we don't like the unknown. So things that are coming on, sometimes it gets us scared. So we put the barriers up straight away.
Let's look at the pandemic for that. We were talking on the phone.
Yeah, it
the
was
other
about
day
yesterday, weren't we?
Totally agree. And we touched on at the start of this podcast today. 3 years ago, I was absolutely petrified of, and that's why I said I don't do tech, right? I was absolutely petrified of it, and because I didn't know anything about it, right? And I think it's the same as what you're touching on here. Anything that we're not sure of, anything we don't know, we tend to be frightened of it.
I feel like ChatGPT as well, isn't it?
All of it.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
Yeah.
And what we've got to understand is, as humans, I think it is one of our super skills. That's why we've evolved. But let me read some more of these. So TV is an opiate for naive children. TV addiction, like substance dependence, that's from the 60s. And then jury convicts television slayer. And then we've got in 1981, year I'm born, is video games. Should video games be restricted by law? Video games are becoming the newest addiction, right? So my point I'm saying is that's over 41 years ago. It's still saying, interestingly enough, China and all these words about how bad China is or how good it is or whatever you believe. But when you look at it, China in the 80s banned Nintendo. You couldn't buy Nintendo computer games there because they didn't think it was good for people. So when you're hearing on about banning TikTok and all these other things and these different things, it's not. They was doing it. They was doing it years ago because they've got different values in different countries to what we have. Computer games, dark side revealed in report as addiction, and video game violence is junkies rush. But these are from the 80s. And all of a sudden, again, it just continues. When the internet was first released, and what's the other one here? Mums may suffer from internet addiction, right? So none of these things are new. It's just another form of something.
Yeah, of course it is.
So when I'm sat there advocating technology should be used as a tool and we must control it, that's what we've got to do. Anyone want to add anything to that?
I think another one what you've put there, nearly all them headlines, at the time, there was negative headlines, weren't they, about anything? I put the news on now and it's nearly all negative. I turn it straight off.
Yeah, but that's a control mechanism, isn't it? You know, you
Yeah.
know that you're going to be fed that information from the news that you don't want to listen to, so you turn it off. And it's the same with us. You know, it's the same with ChatGPT. It's the same with video games. Same with your mobile devices, your social media. There's a point where you have to have that balance to just turn it off.
And there's,
Yeah.
there's only one person in control of this, isn't they?
Yeah,
It was
And
that
yourself.
It's yourself.
100%, but I think where it links back to again, we can say in the news there's an agenda and all the rest of it, but what we've got to understand as humans, and I think this is what we sometimes forget, it's really easy to blame somebody else, another force, rather than us taking accountability. Do you remember when we had John Alexander on the podcast around the
Yeah.
way citizens and
Yeah.
the way you can make change, right? Man Club's a testament to that. We can make massive change. I stood up in that networking thing the other day about making change
Yeah,
around
you
manufacturers.
did, yeah.
You know, and some people are scared because they see it's competition.
Yeah.
But again, we will make that change because we can do things differently, right? But I think what is really interesting, what Indistractable goes on to say even further, is distraction is a sign of dysfunction. And when you really deeply think about that, it starts to get quite deep in terms of what he's saying. Because what he says in his model is, we've got a master internal triggers, and these internal triggers, and I'm going to do a little exercise in a minute because I think it's really powerful. We've got a hack back external triggers, so the pings, rings, and dings. We've got to turn our phones off and make time, what he calls for, make time for traction. We've got a set time in our calendar to actually have them deep, meaningful relationships, create that project. And we've got to prevent distraction with what he calls packs. And we'll get into that in a bit more detail. But if we just start talking about mastering our internal triggers, what he talks about is understand the deep root cause of distraction. Right? We've all been distracted. Give me some examples this week what you've been distracted by. So things you should have been doing and you've ended up doing something else, but what you shouldn't have done. You got any examples?
I've got one. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go on.
Kids are off school this week, half term, and I usually leave my phone downstairs because my routine is I get up, I make a cup of tea for my wife while she's getting the kids ready. But because that's changed now, because the kids are off, they're still in bed, my wife's in bed, I'm getting up for work. I brought my phone back into my bedroom to use it as an alarm. Now my routine's changed completely. My alarm's going off and I'm sat on my phone for 15 minutes before I'm getting out of bed. And it's messed my routine up completely as to what I usually do. I'm usually up, I get washed, brush my teeth, cup of tea, and then I start my day. But
Soon you'll be combing your hair.
and so yeah, a few months away, yeah. But soon I'll be combing my hair, yeah. But that digital distraction has just thrown off everything that I usually do, and it's done it for a full week.
So that's a good one. That's a good example. You got anything?
Yeah, I believe I set my stall out each day to do certain tasks, and then you read your email and then it throws you off because you think you should be attacking that instead of what you should be doing, what you
Yeah.
set out to do that day. I need to set myself up to hit my emails at a certain time of day or when I'm free, so it doesn't take me away from what I was going to do and what will gain my business, which will go forward, because that's what I need to do. I need to set my stall out for that day and then not divert, because if I read an email and I need to action it, I can do that the next day.
Yeah. And mine was preparing for this podcast. I knew I had to do the scripts and get things ready and do a bit of research because it doesn't just happen on its
No.
own, does it? We need things to talk about. But again, the way I managed that was what's called an effort pack. We'll go more insight in later, but you'll see. But what he goes on to say more is, he says, all motivation is a desire to escape discomfort. So if we understand that, and what are you taking from that quote? So if I'll read it again. All motivation is a desire to escape from discomfort.
So what motivates us? No, I don't understand. Go on.
So
Go on.
let's take Dean's example then,
Go
right?
on.
So he's getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
No one really wants to come to work. We've all got a million things we want to do, right? No one really wants to get up and feed the kids and do all the other stuff and all the chores and all the rest of it. Because I believe, and challenge me both if I'm wrong, we're all lazy at our core, aren't we? Right? Not in a bad way, but we like path the least resistance. And what I mean by that, if we wasn't lazy at our core, why do we have self-driving cars?
Yeah.
Why do we have electric scooters? Why do we have electric? Why do we even invent bicycling in the first place? all this technology, what we're doing
We
now,
like the easy option.
Not-
If we get the chance, we like to relax.
I think we're the most efficient
Yeah.
animal on the planet.
Yeah.
We're really good at saving our own energy and using other energy, and we're just an amazing creature out there, is the human race, right? A highly efficient animal, right? But what that means is, the problem is, if we keep everything simple, we're here to survive, aren't we? Eat, procreate, right? But everything else is all we're all going towards ease, aren't we? Right? So doing anything hard, all of a sudden, it's in our nature to not want to do it. So you talk about procrastination, don't you?
Yeah.
We've had this conversation for years.
Yes.
You think you suffer from procrastination. All of us do.
Yes,
Go
Yeah.
talk more about that.
especially at the early start of the business, there was some things that I was putting off, but it would be the biggest and best. It would be the best for my business.
Explain that in more detail, because I'm giggling.
Opening a bank account was one of them.
But the thing is, and this is the thing, when you're coaching someone or leading someone, if you tell them what to do, it's not coaching. It's a dictatorship. And for a long time, it's all right me pushing Paul to want to open a business, but would you ever want to open a business and run a business?
Probably not. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I would like to, but I don't think I ever would, because I don't know. It's just not something.
There's certain parts of, but let me rephrase that question. What I meant was, in terms of all the finance function of a business, would you enjoy doing all that?
No, because
That's what I meant to say.
it's like a few years back when I was doing the role I was doing, if you'd have asked me then, I'd have probably said yes. But the journey I've been on and the work I'm doing now and what I've seen the work, what goes into it, and I understand a lot more about how business functions. I don't think I'd want to take that on.
Right.
To be honest.
And what I mean by that is, when I got into business with Scott, we looked at our highest and best uses, and there's a lot of stuff what Scott's amazing at from a governance point of view. He's not my highest and best use, and he enjoys it. Right?
Yeah.
And there's like that connecting thing where I like connecting and do sales and marketing. He can't stand it.
No.
Right? But it's understanding what your highest and best use is. But back to that story with Paul was, I think this is I think we've got to be really careful when we look on social media, when we are in there, when we're being distracted. How many videos have you seen about hustle? Get your hustle game on, your side hustle.
Yeah.
How many videos have you seen?
Yeah, quite a few over the years.
Loads.
And does it make it sound easy or hard or?
Oh yeah,
I think get your hustle. I don't know when it comes across when they say get your hustle on. You see all these little videos, they make it look like it's a breeze to them. I don't know if that's
That's
just the
why.
way it comes across to me.
Well, I wanted to ask that because I look at it because I think either I'm doing something completely wrong in every organisation I've ever worked in.
Yeah.
Because it takes so much effort to do what we do.
Yeah.
Man Club, all the other ones. There's no such thing as a free lunch because someone's always selling something in the background. But the point I'm making is, when you're coaching someone, you got to draw it out with that person. I mean, that's the idea.
Yeah.
And it's got to be right for them.
yeah, and you were when I was first starting the business, you was always 3 years in advance. You knew what was coming, but you could. I had to learn and do it, and you guided me in the right areas and the right way. But obviously, you couldn't do it for me because that wouldn't have any growth with myself. And we had a conversation maybe a month ago, and I said, I can't believe what I'm doing. You went, I always knew he was. But you just had to go out and
You had to
do
believe,
it.
yeah, I always believed you could do it. You just didn't believe you could do it. That
Exactly, yeah.
and that's always the case. And I think linking into that though, it goes back to through that period for a long time, before you made the jump. How many times was you distracted from actually doing what you? When you look back, how easy it was. Set up the bank account, do the things you need to do. Very difficult. Let me rephrase. Very simple what you did, right? And what you do, running a bit all of us what we do. Not simplistic by any stretch of the imagination, because some of it's not your highest and best use. But back to being distracted, how many times did you go home and watch something you shouldn't have watched, or did something you shouldn't have done?
I was busy doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. I was busy doing nothing. Where I thought I was really busy and adding value to the business, I really wasn't. Sorry, the biggest things that I needed to do, I was procrastinating and putting them off. But once I stopped procrastinating and attacked the big things, my business just took off, right? But it took me to go through that process to learn. And so I attack them now, and I don't procrastinate as much as I used to be. I'm getting better.
But understand this, and this is what I want you to understand. This is why I think this book's so amazing. It says anything that stops discomfort is potentially addictive, but that doesn't make it irresistible. So what I mean by that is our own drivers and behaviours, we've got to be able to take steps to manage them. So what I mean by that is going home and watching Netflix, it's enjoyable. Sit on the sofa and not having to think. Going home and playing in the garden with the kids, it's enjoyable. Of course it's enjoyable. There's loads of things that are so enjoyable to do. But we've got to understand it becomes an addiction if it's stopping us, like Dean mentioned. His full week's been disrupted because he's took it. It's really hard to take his phone out of the bedroom. He's brought it back in. And what are you thinking around that? 'Cause you're nodding.
Yeah, no, it's just, I think a good example, we was talking about this on that podcast with Ed, when we spoke about things like alcohol and drugs. It's a great example of that. You know, anything that takes away discomfort is addictive, and it all, you can see the cycle and how easy it is for people. This is I'm using a quite a big example with drugs and alcohol, but
We can link it back in terms of working with Gemma around stopping me and you drinking coffee.
Yeah.
Now, I swing. I've gone back in terms of I went back on caffeine one a day. One every other day. I thought I'd try have one and at about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. And then it started creeping in, and then guess what happened to my sleep patterns?
messed your sleep patterns up.
So back off it again, because I know it's not good for me. Because it's the ultimate fast pill for me. And I know my brain's already miles an hour anyway. I don't need it fueled by caffeine. I just don't.
Yeah.
Do you get my point?
Yeah.
And you have things in your own way. But there's a real quick exercise I want us to think about now. So deal with this is about dealing with distraction from within. So just have a stop and think, and it's think of 4 things you was doing this week, right? So 4 things where you've been distracted. And I want you to think, so like for me, I was writing a course this week, and I did write the course, but I was meant to record it. But there's loads of times where it just hasn't turned out right. I've just procrastinated. I have chipped away at it, but the distraction's been for me checking email this week, even though I pride myself that I check it at 4 o'clock this week. I noticed that I started dipping into it. I dipped into it that well. I checked my social media this week that I was posting that I'd got inbox 0 and I was doing really well this week. But I didn't need to be in it as much as I was in it. So it's a bit too much time in email for me. So that's one example. I had quite a lot of meetings this week, and I think that distracted me. And I know I need to have them, but I think I had a few too many. And other things for me, jumping onto social media and doing some LinkedIn posts. I did so many LinkedIn posts this week compared to what I normally would do. Or doing research in certain areas, because we've got a sales meeting on Monday coming up and marketing. So I spent a lot of time doing things that I could have done today. I could have done it tomorrow. So there's some typical examples. And when I looked at them, so task 1 is to have a little think. Tell me 1 or 4 things, tasks you've done and you've been distracted. And the second thing is ask a real simple question. When you look back at why you got distracted, what was the feeling? And if I'm honest, mine was frustrated. I didn't know this course I was doing, difficult, a bit frustrated about, I had too many ideas. Another one for me was I was worried. I had a couple of customer emails that I'd seen in there. And one of them was a stupid worry. I got invited to a customer's wedding. Unfortunately, I can't make it. But the phone had gone, and all of a sudden I'm panicking that is there something wrong? Worry, anxiety, I better do that. When actually, normally I'd have just waited a couple of hours to make that call back. But again, so a couple of mine was distractions was born out of about me being worried and anxious. And there was no truth within that, if that makes sense. So you got some examples there?
This week, distraction. To be fair, I haven't been distracted a real lot this week because I've been delivering from start to finish. So the phone's been off. I haven't checked emails till I've come home on an evening. So I just jump on and have a look, see what emails I've got during the day. So this week I haven't had a real lot of distractions because I've been delivering my courses from 9 in the morning till 5 at night. So I haven't had chance, but previous weeks probably have, looking at my emails when I should have been doing something else, which I touched on earlier.
Another example for me, my help as well. Again, this week, I avoided the gym.
Yeah.
Because I made up in the story that I needed to do this course. And then when I came in, so I avoid the gym. I don't do my course. and then I check email and check other stuff that I shouldn't do. Do you
Yeah.
do you see the trigger?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, great thing that I was going to procrastinate going for a walk last weekend, but I really took myself into it and I did 12.8k,
Well done.
but I've pulled my calf, so I ain't done nothing this week. But good.
No, anything you've done?
Yeah, same for me. My 70/30. My 30 is my tasks that I don't particularly like doing, but I've got to do them because they're important. And I set some time aside this afternoon to do some jobs, and I got a call from a customer. And like you mentioned, it was yours where a customer rang you, and it ended up being something completely different. I picked up the call in the middle of my tasks, and it was a problem. It was a member of staff who had left. It was quite urgent, and I dropped everything I was doing, and I jumped onto that, and I spent 35 minutes fixing somebody else's problem. And which is a customer, I've got to do it, but I could have delegated that task. But because it come to me direct, I picked it up. It distracted what I was doing. I did that task, and at the end of it, I felt frustrated. And yeah, it's just. And then the reason I was frustrated, not because I did the task, is because I knew that I shouldn't have answered that call, and it could have waited. It could have gone to the desk. It could have gone to somebody else. But I chose to pick that call up, and that's what was frustrating.
And that, but then when you look at that, it's worry anxiety because you're like me. You don't want
Yeah,
to let the
you don't
customer
wanna let
down.
them
I know you're very similar like
Yep.
that. And I think interesting what it goes on to say is the way we manage that then and stop that is we make time for traction. And we've had this a lot around mental health. And I always remember getting taught this by Martin Johnson, actually, Transitool Performance. And back in the early days, and I forget where he picked this from, but it's all about when we're worried about something. It's okay to worry, but you put it on your calendar. So you're only allowed to worry for an hour at a set time of the day. And all of a sudden, just putting that in your calendar and saying it's okay, because you've got to accept that we've got to go for that feeling. But we're only allowed to worry at that point and that time of day. It all of a sudden starts helping you manage and feel in control. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
And I think, interestingly, distractions cost us time. And he starts going into that we've got to start scheduling times to read emails, not answering them phone, using focus mode. Because again, what have you noticed? Because there was a time, wasn't there, where I originally put focus mode on your device for social media because you was bad.
Yeah, I was really bad.
And I refused to give the password for it.
Yeah, that's correct.
And be honest, how did that make you feel back in the day? Because let's just give a bit of context just for our listeners. We don't talk always about Man Club, but go back into the days when you wasn't paid to work for Andy's Man Club. You was just turning up and helping, and you've done and you still, even though you are paid, you still do loads of free work in your time as well. But back then, you was leading a club. You jumped on the social media, used to loads of stuff, but explain why I used to ban you from Andy's Man Club social media, and explain why I put a lock on your phone.
Because it took over. It took over everything. And it took over what I should be really doing. And it started affecting. We're all there for Andy's Man Club for our mental health and stuff. And I think it was having a derogatory effect on man, because it was one of those where I didn't leave it alone. It was a distraction. It was a distraction on everything. And I was saying I want to go out and I wanted to develop this and develop that. And I also probably thought nobody else could do it but me. And
You didn't like delegating, did you?
didn't like delegating because I thought, totally wrong. This was 3-4 years back. My thoughts at the time was nobody could do it better than me, which is totally wrong, because there's kids now doing it miles better than me. But it was just, it was that. So obviously Leon took a bit of control, and he said, we're taking you off all of social media, we're doing this, that and the other. And even on my courses now, I talk about this. Because it was the best thing, and it wasn't, there was no me taking a step back to come back forward. I had to take a step back and say, look, here why you're having everything, because if I'd have carried on, I probably wouldn't be doing the great work that I'm doing today.
No, but also I think because we've got a long-standing friendship, haven't we, right?
Yeah.
I have a unique ability to know when you're
Yeah,
struggling.
he's got a sixth sense, and he
you,
spots it.
And likewise with me.
Yeah.
You check in with me, don't you? But what was interesting was when we talk about distraction, Paul got such a big heart and wants to help everybody. He wants showing up first and foremost for himself.
Yeah.
And I could see it. So he's so busy posting on social media about what a great time we're having, then he's going in the room and he's not using the room for himself. he's not showing up for himself, and I say you can't fill from an empty cup. So again, and this is another form of distraction, solving other people's problems and everybody else before we put our own masks on first. We talk about that. But ultimately, what we've got to look at, and I love this quote again, dissatisfaction is responsible for our species' advancement as much as our faults, right? But also think about it, our innate power to be distracted. I think, we have what's called negativity bias. So we'll read negative news before positive, been scientifically proven. Right? I also believe one about what's gave me an idea from this sort of book and thinking is, if I kicked you in the privates right now, would you ask me to do it again?
Not really.
It's not enjoyable, is it, right?
No.
We've all witnessed our beautiful wives give birth to our children.
Yep.
I don't know about you, but I don't know how any woman goes through that once, let alone multiple times. Would anyone want to add to that or detect from that?
No, correct.
I agree.
It does not look enjoyable for them.
No, not at all.
It's an amazing feat of human. But it just amazes me, and for me, we're nothing compared to.
No.
I couldn't do it. No chance.
Are we all in agreement?
Yeah.
Oh,
Agree, yeah.
what they go through is amazing.
My point is, though, right, where I'm going with this, back to this distraction piece, I think in our nature, we have a really good way of looking past and making it better than what it was. And that's what I think is one of our superpowers that drives us forward. It wasn't that bad. We can go again.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
You look at your kids walking, they fall over, they crack themselves. It's our job to pick them up and they keep going.
Yep.
And my point is, nothing good comes out of being kicked in the balls, is it?
Certainly not.
You see where I'm going with this?
No.
Yeah.
We do not want that to happen again.
No.
But because it doesn't serve us. Right? But procreation serves us. And we're able to have an innate ability to look back and make it more positive than it was and go do it again, aren't we?
Yeah.
Certainly have.
Got it? Right, so see how I'm going with that? And then next, where we're heading with this is hack back external triggers, right? So external triggers, like we mentioned, rings, pings and dings. But it's all of a sudden like we talk about WhatsApp. So how do you guys manage WhatsApp? What's your opinions on WhatsApp? Do you love it? Do you hate it? What's your...
Yeah, I don't mind. I'm quite controlled with mine.
Yeah, I'm quite all right with WhatsApp.
I think it's quite useful.
I've got all my notifications off, so I have to physically go in
Yeah.
to see if there's a message. It's
So what tips would you give someone if they've got a group chat then?
turn your notifications off, because every time it pings, you want to have a look at it. You gave me a great tool a few years back, is when you get a notification, what colour are they? Red, for danger in it. So you need to look straight away. And I don't have none of my notifications on. Some people have been annoyed and said, I messaged you hours ago and you haven't replied to me. Why? Because I didn't know you'd messaged, and because I don't have my notification. I had to physically go in. Even on Facebook Messenger, I probably don't go in there for weeks. And then there's people messaging me in there, but I don't.
But
don't go
ultimately,
in.
but again, this is what we're talking about, making time and conscious
Yeah.
effort. And again, it's this key question. We must ask ourselves, is this trigger serving me or am I serving it? And I love that. Because when that phone rings and pings and dings, it should only be for your loved ones and people who are massively important. It should be distracting you if someone's in an emergency. So it's got a time and a place, but we're never going to do meaningful work. And I think other tips I have for people using messaging and chats and all the rest of it is get in and get out as quick as you can. You've got fantastic tools. We use Google, you've got Microsoft Teams. They're also able to use AI and send you summaries so you don't need to miss out on anything. You're a part of Andy's Man Club, chat groups, all the rest of it. So they've all got a place, but we've got to be really mindful, I think, of how we use these sort of tools. Anyone want to add anything?
Yeah. No, I think there's the bits you mentioned when you check your emails at a certain day, certain time. It's that reframing. And I was quite bad with certain customers emailing me on a night. They would only email me on a night time because that's the time they managed to sit back and maybe get things off the chest or past jobs or whatever they wanted to do. And I still get it now. We've got a new customer we've taken on and they would only message me on a night. And I've had to learn the lesson from previous to reframe them. And I've responded politely after hours to say, look, just to let you know, these are our working hours. I'll forward your request in, but we will respond between these 2 hours. And I've reframed that client to get back into the habit of it's my time at home. and I don't want to be checking my mail if there's something urgent it needs to go in on this day.
And it also needs to have a place and a time, and it's got to go into the right process so it can be managed effectively. 'Cause
Exactly,
we do
yeah.
have customers that are on 24 hours out, don't
Yeah,
we?
yeah.
But I think what we've also got to remember is external triggers aren't always harmful. So it's not about having every notification off. It's about setting yourself up to win.
Yeah.
Because any external trigger that leads us to traction is not bad. We talk about Apple Watches. The one I love personally is giving me a step count, giving me a note, motivating me to go get out and do that walk, drink that piece of that water, or do whatever it is. So not all triggers are bad, but again, what I'm advocating and we're all saying is, we've got to be intentional about what we do, haven't we?
Yeah, totally. And I deliver a masterclass for mental health, and that goes to a lot of managers and directors. And we come up with one bit about sending what Dean's just talked about, sending emails out of hours. Does your manager, this was like a director, I had a real conversation with him, and I said, does your managers need to see that email before the morning? And he went, no. So I said, well, why did you send it? And he said, so I don't forget, which is a totally valid answer. So I said, why don't you schedule it to hit their inbox when they start work at 6 in the morning? He said, because I didn't know how. So me being a real big RT guru, I showed him how to do it. And it was just something that it wasn't the biggest thing in the world, but it got people
It's huge.
thinking different.
Yeah, it does.
And I said,
Yeah.
because
I love that, Paul.
what happens is the director sends the email to the manager, sends the email to his supervisor, and everybody might be sat at home on the phone and have the work phone with them reading emails. But if you want somebody to be the best version of themselves the next day, they've got to have rest. And it wasn't just about the emails. It just got the directors and the management thinking a little bit
No,
differently.
but again, because all this technology's evolved and there's no
Yeah.
rules to play with. You're fortunate because you've got some of the best technology in the world where you
Yeah.
can schedule emails, you can do
Yeah.
all different cool stuff, right? But some people don't even have that technology. They can't schedule emails,
Mm.
or they're not knowing that button's been. And I think it's about educating what is right
Yeah.
for everybody. And again, linking back into that further, I think I really love this part of the book, and I said I'm going to come back to this. So even though I said I didn't spend as much time doing my course that I wanted to do, and don't get me wrong, I've moved the needle somewhat, right? But it talks about prevent distractions with packs, and this is like packs in terms. I make a pack with you that will let you down and back.
Yeah.
And it says there's three types of packs. So you have effort packs, price packs, and identity packs. So let's look at this. So effort packs are a great one. So in his original book, he talks about he used to put a timer on his internet, like a switch, so
Yeah.
it'd turn off. But on our phones now, we can put focus time on. So
Yeah.
an effort pack is what can you put in place to stop you doing something you know that what's not good for you that takes effort. So effort packs. Any other ideas of ones for effort packs? You got focus mode on your phone. I do other stuff like you've mentioned. An effort pack for you is where do you keep your mobile phone?
Yeah. So even tonight, it's generally like movie night. So 7 o'clock, we're a bit of Friday, we put our phones on the shelf. We don't touch them till the morning. We try and spend that time together as a family with no digital distractions.
So that's an effort pack.
It's an effort pack, yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And again, these really make unhelpful behaviours difficult to do, right? So that's a good one. Another one, though, is an identity pack. And I didn't realise until we started doing this, a lot of the things we do at Andy's Man Club, we identify with the cause of Andy's Man Club to hold us accountable. So we might not might not drink on that night or vice versa, or whatever, because we want to show up and turn up
Yeah.
and do that. Another example of an identity pack and an effort pack, for example, is I've set myself up to do some talks at BNI in the education slots.
Yep.
It's because I hate public speaking. We all hate it, but I know that if I commit to do that, I've got to do some slides. But then also what I try and do is the subjects I talk about are subjects that we'll talk about on the podcast. So I did a mini version of this morning, didn't
Yes.
I? Right?
Yeah, you did.
But I didn't put the slides together. And why did I put the slides together? Because I know it's going to be part of our socials and our other things. So what I do is I'm using an effort pack. It takes effort to do what I'm doing, if you like, and I'm also identifying with because I can't let my peers down around it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally get
And then the last one is price packs. Is the way that you can add price to it. So, for example, I use these all the time. Let's say my 3 goals I'm going to try and achieve this week. There's going to be a reward at the end of the week for it. What I'm going to buy, I'm going to buy myself something to treat for me. Maybe the football tickets to do this or something what is the reward for you for doing that? And I think that's another great way
Yeah.
for you to bring that together. So I've loved this one. Any sort of, what are your 3 key takeaways from us talking about being indistractable?
I think being indistractable is a superpower that we all need, because we can all be distracted very easily. But if we make an effort, like you said, we can still do all the things that we want to do, but it can be in the right time.
Yeah, for me, I think it's just finding out what is your biggest distraction, and even if it's just one thing, what one thing can you put in place to try and reduce that or prevent it?
And what's one thing you're going to start doing differently next week following this podcast?
So I've put a timer on all my social media, 20 minutes a day. So I'll post and then that's it. And I'll be able to get on with my tasks.
What's one thing you're going to let go of?
One thing I'm going to let go of? I don't know. I'll have to have a think about that. Don't know.
I'll help you with that. Mine's really simple.
Go on.
Linking back into the previous podcast we did, about in terms of our sort of values, in terms of our start trying to achieve too much in a week. I'm letting go of trying to achieve too much. My big one is the distraction piece, like I've mentioned, bringing my tomato timer back, where I set time to do it. I've got a digital version. I've trapped myself to a digital version of it, and just bringing that back. So that's huge for me.
What about not letting things go? But because I haven't been distracted and I'm better, I create more productivity during the day because I haven't been distracted, I'll be able to get to the gym more because it'll give me more time. So it's not letting something go, it's actually getting something back.
So let's make an identity.
make a pact.
Let's make a pact. Let's get 3 in next week
There you go.
together. There we go. What about yourself?
For me, I think it's my 70-30. My 30, I need to protect that time more. And the way I need to do that is to be a little bit more controlled and selfish with my time. I need to stop letting people distract me and to pass them tasks on. Yeah, that's me. I need to spend more time in my 30 and block out everything else.
Love it. That's me checking out.
All checking out.
Dean, check it out. Well, good ones there.